On the eve of the grand wedding, Situ Yuan and my maid, Lin Mingyue, ended up in bed together for a night of passion. Afterward, he told me that Lin Mingyue had dressed just like me that night, so he couldn't tell the difference and was innocent. I sneered and exposed his lie, then kicked the maid, Lin Mingyue, out of the house. In the end, she wandered the streets, was abused to death by beggars, which in turn brought upon me Situ Yuan's frantic revenge. He tortured me daily with his words and actions, forcing me before Lin Mingyue's memorial tablet to kneel for 49 whole days and kowtow 99,999 times to atone for my sins. Ultimately, I was tortured to death. Opening my eyes once more, I have been reborn back to the day before my wedding to Situ Yuan. Before I could even recover from the shock, another maid ran in, panting heavily. "Miss, Lin Mingyue was just wearing your clothes," and went into the groom's room. I didn't expect Lin Mingyue to actually have such intentions. "You are truly wise, miss. Let's go stop them. Quickly. It'll be too late if we don't." I pulled off my red bridal veil and decided not to pursue it. If she wants to go, let her go. At worst, I will just yield the marriage to her. You must not speak a word of this to anyone. While the maid watched in shock, I took off my wedding gown and changed into everyday clothes. When mother learned the truth, she was furious. She wanted to punish Lin Mingyue right away. I shook my head. "Mother, the princess once said that if I did not find a good husband, I could request to go to Shu to keep her company." The princess was a close childhood friend of my mother's. She told me this when she left the capital in her old age. Mother saw that I had a mind to leave the capital, even though she was reluctant to let me go. Now that things had come to this, she had no reason to stop me, so she nodded in agreement. The next day, I quietly took Qingfeng and left for Shuzhou. My marriage to Situ Yuan was an alliance between two prominent families. It had been arranged since we were born. Lin Mingyue was my personal maid. Just like Lin Qingfeng, she was bought by my father, who also bestowed her name. I treated them both like my own sisters. I never expected Lin Mingyue to be so utterly ungrateful and treacherous. On the day of my wedding to Situ Yuan, she made an excuse to slip away, put on a crimson bridal gown, and sneaked into Situ Yuan's bedchamber. At the time, I was still wondering why Situ Yuan was taking so long to arrive at our bridal chamber. By the time I realized the truth, the two of them had already shared an intimate encounter. Situ Yuan did not feel the slightest bit of guilt. He wanted to elevate Lin Mingyue to the status of his primary wife, placing her on equal footing with me. I threw a massive fit at the general's estate, making the scandal known to everyone. The resulting gossip and public backlash nearly drowned Lin Qingfeng in shame. Unable to live with the humiliation, she ended her life with a length of white silk. Situ Yuan could not change the outcome, but he unleashed his resentment on me after our wedding. He subjected me to all kinds of torture: whips, wooden planks, nail beds, and branding iron. He spared no cruel method. Only a year into our marriage, my body was covered in layers of new and old wounds. As I hung on to a thread of life, he moved Lin Mingyue's ancestral tablet into the Situ family shrine and forced me to kowtow, repent, and chant scriptures daily for her soul's release. Using my last ounce of strength, I shattered Lin Mingyue's tablet. Grief-stricken upon seeing the shattered tablet, Situ Yuan turned vicious, binding me tightly with cotton ropes and burning me alive. The agonizing pain of being burned all over contorted my face in torment. Situ Yuan, Lin Mingyue, was nothing but a maid.
But she and I fell in love at first sight when we were children. It is all because of you that we were torn apart in life and death. You deserve to suffer in agony. Even in death, you won't find peace, for you will atone to her.
In this lifetime, I didn't want to make a scene. Since they had been in love since childhood, I would let go and let them be together. 5 years later, the emperor, in his 70s, was terminally ill. He had no sons to succeed him. The sons of the princes were all useless, so while he still had a breath left, he designated his only sister's child as the crown prince. I returned to the capital with the princess to attend the investiture ceremony. At the banquet after the ceremony, Situ Yuan spotted me, a flash of wariness in his eyes. Lin Mingyue hadn't expected me to appear here either. She grabbed my hand and said,
"Sister, where have you been these past 5 years? I've searched for you so hard. I was the one who wronged you back then. Hit me, scold me, do whatever you want. I am willing to bear it."
With disgust, I pulled my hand away and rolled my eyes. 5 years had passed, yet she was still putting on the same fake act.
Mingyue is now my lawful wife, the wife of the general who guards the west. How dare you be so insolent?
Situ Yuan stepped forward, his eyes filled with warning. The commotion among the three of us drew the attention of several high-ranking officials and noble ladies. One of the ladies walked over and asked, "This lady looks unfamiliar. Whose official's wife is she?"
She is no official's wife. She is the eldest daughter of the Grand Marshal's household, the runaway bride.
Situ Yuan spoke up, shifting all the blame onto me. Upon hearing this, the lady's face twisted with disgust.
So she is that legitimate daughter of the Grand Marshal's family. She ran away from her wedding and vanished for years, bringing shame to her family's name. And now she dares to show her face here.
I frowned slightly, only now realizing that during my 5-year absence, this was the rumor they had spread. They had completely twisted the truth. I've heard that the storytellers in the capital are unmatched at spinning tales on the spot, but I didn't expect noble ladies to lie. Even better than storytellers, storytellers. I looked at the lady before me, then glanced at the crowd behind her that was taking Lin Mingyue's side. A surge of anger rising within me.
I am the lawful wife of the imperial censor. How dare a mere girl like you speak to me in such a manner? The Grand Marshal's manner is one rank higher than us. But does that justify such insolence?
Madam, please do not be angry. I am sure sister did not mean it. Sister, whatever the fault, it is all mine. Please suppress your temper as the eldest sister and do not cause any trouble. If you are willing, I can ask my husband to marry you into our household again, even if only as a concubine. It is still better than having no husband's family at all. At least you will have the finest clothes and jewelry.
Saying this, she took my hand and displayed the somewhat worn-looking jade bracelet to everyone, wearing a mocking expression on her face. I did not bother to argue. This bracelet was a token of love between my husband and me. It was passed down from the retired emperor himself, the only one of its kind in the entire capital. It was one thing that she lacked the eye for quality, but to mistake it for some worthless trinket was utterly laughable. There is no rule in this world where a master becomes a concubine to a maid. I calmly withdrew my hand.
Sister, does being a maid mean I deserve to die?
Upon hearing my words, Lin Mingyue's face fell, and she immediately clutched her chest, pretending to be in pain. Situ Yuan could least bear to see Lin Mingyue so distressed. He spoke up directly.
Even if you are of noble status, I still think nothing of you. She is grateful and knows how to repay kindness, virtuous and gentle, while you are corrupt in character, acting willfully and recklessly. Where is there even a shred of an elder sister's dignity in you? Now that she is willing to yield to you, you are actually being so aggressively overbearing. You really don't know what is good for you.
The bystanders also began to whisper and gossip. To think the legitimate daughter of the Grand Marshal's manor is so spoiled and willful. No wonder she was banished from her family.
This so-called pride of yours is merely because you rely on being the Grand Marshal's legitimate daughter. You probably don't know that after you fled the marriage, the Grand Marshal had long removed your name from the family registry and recognized Lin Mingyue as the legitimate daughter instead, right? We only refrained from saying it to spare your feelings. Yet you actually thought you could continue to lord it over others. What absolute wishful thinking. You deserve this outcome. With a legitimate daughter like you, who would dare to protect you? It seems the Grand Commandant still knows right from wrong.
Hearing these words, I was taken aback. 5 years away from home, I had never received any news of my family removing my name from the genealogy. Why were these people so certain? Could some mishap have occurred? I instinctively thought of my mother. She and my father had little affection for each other to begin with. Could she have met with some misfortune?
Sisters, she doesn't know about these things. By blurting it out like this, it must be hard for her to take. Actually, I can understand her. She was just spoiled growing up, making her a bit willful. She is not a bad person. Sister, it was you who fled the marriage back then. Having no other choice, I married the general in your place. Even if you live poorly now and resent me, I understand. I only ask that you don't cause any more trouble. Come home with me quietly. I will have the general treat you well.
When Lin Mingyue was my personal maid, she often played the victim, using her status as a maid to manipulate me, coaxing so much favor out of me. Now that she had leaped to take my place and was the great general's wife, she still couldn't break this habit. Watching her perform so laboriously, I felt as if I were watching a sideshow act.
Su Ruoyun, since my wife has spoken, I can naturally grant you a place to stay, but you must kneel before Mingyue and apologize for your wrongs before I will agree to it.
I almost doubted my own ears. Asking me to kneel before my former maid. Utterly absurd. 5 years have passed, and Situ Yuan's arrogance hasn't changed a bit. I am not lacking a place to stay.
Sister, you have fallen to such a state. If it weren't because you can't survive, why would you try every means to sneak into the banquet just to run into us? If you don't even want a place to stay, could it be that you want the general to divorce me and marry you instead?
That is completely uncalled for.
Mingyue, how could I ever divorce you?
Situ Yuan said, somewhat agitated.
You are the primary wife I chose. At all times you are my only primary wife. No one should ever dream of replacing you. Since she refuses our kindness, let's not waste any more breath on her. We should head to the banquet and take our seats. Today is the very first time the Crown Prince is bringing the Crown Princess out in public. It is extremely important.
As soon as those words were spoken, Lin Mingyue instantly became respectful. Several high-ranking officials and nobles nearby also nodded in agreement.
Yes, indeed, I heard the Crown Princess is overbearing, taciturn, and difficult to get along with. But this country will surely belong to the Crown Prince in the future. We must put effort into pleasing the Crown Princess.
I raised my eyebrows slightly. I might be taciturn, but when have I ever been overbearing? Seeing that I stood my ground and refused to leave, Situ Yuan pulled a silver ingot from his robe and threw it at my feet.
Take the silver and get lost.
He seemed terrified that my presence here would ruin his plans. Feeling disgusted, I took a step back, only to accidentally bump into a little maid passing behind me. It is over. It is over. Everything is ruined. Looking at the clothes and jewelry scattered on the ground, the little maid hurriedly gathered them up, but they were still a total mess. Impossible to present. Tears streamed down her face instantly, blaming herself for not being more careful.
Are you all right?
Situ Yuan spoke up, feigning concern. In court, he always projected an image of treating subordinates well and being warm-hearted. General, this is the ceremonial robe and phoenix crown. The crown princess is to wear for the banquet. Now that I have ruined them, I will surely be put to death. General, could you please find a way to save my life? The young maid kept kowtowing repeatedly. As I turned around just now, I also saw that those indeed seemed to be the clothes and jewelry meant for me. But since I was the one who bumped into the maid, she naturally shouldn't have to take the blame. So, I pulled her up. Don't cry. I don't blame you. Before the young maid could react, Situ Yuan shoved me directly. He pushed with great force.
You don't blame her. Who are you to decide that? Do you really think you're still the legitimate daughter you used to be? Did you think the silver I just gave you wasn't enough? Now, even if you want to leave, you won't be able to. For damaging the crown princess's ceremonial attire, you can expect to be torn apart by horses.
I lost the patience I had moments ago. From the very beginning until now, they had been constantly provoking me and causing trouble, even making malicious assumptions. Enough. These clothes were meant for me. I don't blame her. What is wrong with that? I looked at him with utter bewilderment.
Outrageous. Facing death. Yet you still dare to speak so wildly. I will drag you before the crown prince right now and see if you still dare to be so insolent.
Situ Yuan was flying into a rage. He directly ordered his attendants to draw their swords, intending to put me to death. The sharp blades were unsheathed, their cold gleam suddenly flashing as they surrounded me in the center. I am the crown princess of the realm. Who dares to lay a hand on me? An unfathomably cold light flashed in my eyes, and I stood firm, completely unfazed. I have held back time and time again, and my patience has reached its absolute limit. Having practiced martial arts day and night alongside the crown prince for the past 5 years, and survived amidst flashing blades and swords, I had developed a bit of a murderous aura myself. Even Situ Yuan's men didn't dare to step forward easily.
Good. You all heard her, right? A commoner speaking without restraint and impersonating the crown princess shall be executed according to the law. Today, even if someone accidentally kills this woman, it will still be considered a great service.
After saying this, Situ Yuan actually showed a look of sheer satisfaction. Seeing Situ Yuan's subordinates holding their swords at their chests, I understood they had already developed intent to kill. They closed in step by step. At first, I could barely hold my ground, but I had no weapon, and my clothes restricted my movement. Soon, I was defeated. With 2 blades pressed against my neck, I could not move a muscle, and my body was already covered in wounds. Lin Mingyue stood to the side, looking utterly triumphant, not forgetting to feign pity for me.
My dear sister, if you had only listened to me earlier, how could you have ended up in this state? Now, even I really cannot save you. In your next life, remember to mend your temper.
Seeing me in this state, the noble lady from earlier stepped forward and slapped me twice without hesitation. Haughty and domineering, she said.
Did you really think you were somebody? Now that you've committed a capital offense yourself, you can't blame us.
I glared fiercely at the censor-in-chief's wife, gnashing my teeth. None of these people will have an easy time today. I advise you to let me go, and I might leave your corpses intact. If you remain obstinate, don't blame me for torturing you slowly. But the malice in their hearts had long been ignited. In order to curry favor with the crown princess whom they had never met, they forced me to kneel and repent, demanding I praise the virtues of the crown princess, just to show how loyal they were. Situ Yuan forced my head down, making me do it time and again. As I kowtowed, I recalled how he had forced me to atone for my sins in my past life, in the exact same way. My eyes turned blood red. Yet Lin Mingyue continued her hypocritical display on the side.
Sister, we are doing this for your own good. Perhaps if we torment you a bit more now, the crown princess will be less angry later, and your miserable life might be spared.
The mocking laughter of the surrounding crowd echoed continuously.
Still so stubborn when death is at your doorstep. It seems you haven't suffered enough.
A few of the more ruthless ones actually went and found a short blade. In an instant, the pain tore through me, racking my entire body. Cold sweat poured down my face. I had once thought that if they left me in peace in this lifetime, I could let bygones be bygones. But now, they just had to force me to remember the agony of my past life, tormenting me like this. If that is the case, don't blame me for being ruthless. Looking at my eyes, which were filled with defiance despite being covered in wounds, Situ Yuan only regretted that he hadn't tortured me enough. He stepped on me, pinning me brutally under his foot. Half of my face was pressed against the dirt and weeds, smelling foul and rancid. He kept pressing down hard, nearly burying my head in the mud.
That is right, sister. If you don't suffer a bit now, you definitely won't survive. When you see the crown prince later, we are teaching you to behave.
Lin Mingyue walked over to my side and casually pulled up weeds from the ground and stuffed them, along with the dirt, into my mouth. I immediately opened my mouth to bite her hand, scaring Lin Mingyue into hastily pulling it back. She then kicked me. I will remember all of you. If you don't kill me today, I will definitely kill you all. I clenched my teeth, my mind a mix of hatred and burning rage.
All right. Husband, since sister doesn't know what is good for her, we can't save her either. Let's just tell the crown prince the truth.
Very well.
Situ Yuan ordered his men to bind me tightly with cotton ropes and prepare torches, intending to burn me alive directly in a moment, just to put on a good show. The crown prince arrived, and the crowd fell to their knees to pay their respects. Feng Zihe had been searching for me for a long time, having heard that I might be here. He squinted his eyes to look around, only to see my clothes torn to shreds, and having been humiliated to an unrecognizable state, an instant wave of murderous intent flared in his eyes.
Who did this?
Forcing myself to stay conscious, I opened my eyes, looked at the surrounding crowd, and spoke. There was a path to heaven, yet you chose not to take it. There was no gate to hell, yet you barged right in. My voice was freezing cold, carrying an elusive, dark undertone amid the silence, sending a shiver down everyone's spine.
Untie her and summon the imperial physician.
Feng Zihe's eyes were filled with nothing but heartache as he looked at me. The crowd was momentarily dazed, realizing that my identity might truly be out of the ordinary. Why else would the current crown prince show such pity and affection toward me? Situ Yuan, having long navigated the imperial court, did not rely solely on his family's protection, but also had his own ways of handling things. Seeing this, the words to expose Su Ruoyun got stuck in his throat, and he couldn't utter a sound. He secretly pondered my words from earlier, feeling a lingering fear. Lin Mingyue did not dare to act rashly either, shrinking behind Situ Yuan.
General, I'm so scared. The crown prince is so concerned about Su Ruoyun. Could she really be the crown princess?
Perhaps she simply has some friendly acquaintance with the crown princess, which is why the crown prince showed some concern, partly to show respect for the crown princess. After all, it is said that the crown prince is deeply devoted to the crown princess. Loving her also extends to those around her, which is only natural.
Thinking of this, Situ Yuan calmed his expression.
Don't be afraid, Mingyue. You are just too timid. In this matter, Su Ruoyun committed the offense first. Even if she has an acquaintance with the crown princess, she is still a mere commoner. How could the crown prince, for the sake of a commoner, punish all of us one by one?
The censor's wife patted Lin Mingyue, telling her not to worry. These words allowed the noblewoman present to breathe a sigh of relief. Earlier, in order to curry favor with the general of Genyuan, they had done their fair share of bullying and were somewhat afraid of being punished. But on second thought, they were all prominent ministers of the imperial court, and the law does not punish the masses. Nothing would happen to them at all. At most, they would receive a few words of reprimand. As for the foundation of their great noble families, it could not be shaken in the slightest. They knelt before the crown prince, waiting for the outcome. Prince, he watched the imperial physician apply medicine to me without saying a word. After applying the medicine, he carried me back to the room where I was resting, completely ignoring them. The banquet did not continue that day. The crowd dispersed, thinking that this matter would probably end up being dropped like this. Some of the faint-hearted ones had trembling legs when they stood up. Situ Yuan and Lin Mingyue returned to the manor. Lin Mingyue was also filled with anxiety and fear.
General, why is it that when Su Ruoyun got injured, the afternoon banquet was cancelled? Because of it, could she really be the crown princess?
I always feel that she cannot be the crown princess, an abandoned daughter, expelled from the family registry. How could she have such great ability to latch onto the crown prince? At most, she is just a friend of the crown princess. The banquet was cancelled, merely to warn us not to touch her in the future. There is no need to take it to heart.
Living a second life, he could foresee things that had happened before. Yet this time, he had failed to calculate that she was actually the son of the eldest princess. Su Ruoyun even had a connection with the crown princess. Now, he could only rely on his usual way of thinking, to deduce that nothing major would happen. Only then did Lin Mingyue heave a sigh of relief. But resentment clearly grew in her eyes. She had obtained everything with great difficulty, thinking that seeing me again, she could trample me under her feet and torture me to death. Who would have thought I actually had the crown princess as my backing? However, she had also made up her mind. Since I dared to return, she would definitely seize every opportunity to torture me to death and would never show any mercy. Feng Zihe used a wet towel to wipe the sweat from my forehead, his eyes filled with pity and tenderness.
Don't be afraid after 3 days. At my ascension ceremony, the first thing I will do is kill those people to avenge you.
No, you know me. In 3 days, I want to kill them with my own hands. I forced myself to speak. I didn't want Feng Zihe to worry. On the way back to the capital, Feng Zihe had been assassinated, and I had fought desperately to protect him, sustaining injuries in the process. After being tormented just now, my wounds had started bleeding again. I probably needed to recuperate, which was just as well while waiting to take my revenge at the enthronement ceremony in 3 days. Before the storm arrives, it is always exceptionally quiet. I hope they would cherish these 3 days of peace. Why must you do it yourself? Avenging you is also my greatest wish. Otherwise, why would I have agreed to inherit the throne? Feng Zihe was somewhat reluctant. He knew what had happened in the capital before, and had always felt indignant about it. Now, since I still wouldn't let him yield the throne, he naturally felt aggrieved. I touched his cheek. Fool, my current status was given to me by you. Is that still not enough?
It is not enough. I want them to die by my blade. Alright, I've never fought with you over killing people.
But those two are different. A cold light flashed in my eyes. I want to torture them, to let them know what it means to wish for death over life. Only then will it be satisfying. I clenched my fists, already having a plan in my heart. Feng Zihe had not revealed my identity, so they probably only thought I had some connection to the crown princess. It would not affect my plan. Feng Zihe could only nod.
Whatever you want is fine. I only wish for you to stay by my side forever like this.
He held me, unwilling to let go, enjoying my warm and soft embrace. He couldn't help but lean in for a kiss. I slapped away his cautiously groping hand. I am injured. Your Highness, please behave yourself.
Fine. Then after your wounds heal, I won't behave myself, and you must not reject me.
During this time, apart from going to the Emperor to receive instruction, taking over matters, great and small, he did nothing but stay by my side, never leaving for a moment. Finding the imperial physicians too careless in applying my medicine, he personally applied it to me himself. Even the Grand Princess remarked that Feng Zihe had married a wife and forgotten his mother. 3 days later, under his meticulous care, my wounds had scabbed over, and I had the strength to walk again. On this day, the Grand Emperor Emeritus announced his abdication. Feng Zihe naturally ascended the throne as emperor, while I, dressed in ceremonial robes, was officially invested as empress. To mother all under heaven, this day had finally come. But as I stood high upon the platform, no one could see my face clearly. That evening, after Feng Zihe finished hosting the banquet for the ministers, he specifically summoned Situ Yuan's family, and those who had humiliated me that day into a private room, under the pretext of having some post-dinner refreshments. They thought this was a special privilege to entrust them with important duties. Yet before they could even sit down, Feng Zihe began to interrogate them.
We have already thoroughly investigated what occurred at the investiture ceremony 3 days ago. Only now do we know that your methods of torturing people are so cruel and harsh, and that you could be so overbearing. We would like to ask where you got such audacity. He said, before glaring directly at Grand General Situ Yuan. Why don't you explain it to us?
Terrified, Situ Yuan knelt on the ground, stammering, unable to utter a single word. The others immediately realized that the time of reckoning had come. They all fell to their knees, their bodies trembling.
We are asking you a question. Have you gone mute?
That day, we mistakenly believed Su Ruoyun was impersonating the crown princess.
Showing great disrespect to Her Highness.
We intended to bring her before your majesty for punishment, but she put up a desperate resistance, forcing us to resort to those measures.
Situ Yuan could only try his best to sugarcoat the situation, making it sound like a mere misunderstanding.
Is that so?
Cold sweat dripped down Situ Yuan's forehead. He never expected that a friend of the crown princess could make the emperor so furious on the very night of the investiture ceremony, and even wondered if I had saved their lives. Lin Mingyue knelt on the ground, her tears already flowing uncontrollably.
Your Majesty, please forgive us. Su Ruoyun was the master I used to serve. She was betrothed to the great general, but she fled on the day of the wedding, bringing shame upon her family. Back then, she was looked down upon by everyone in the capital. When she appeared at the banquet a few days ago, she spoke with absolute arrogance. We were only worried she might offend someone, so we merely wanted to admonish her. At the time, we truly wanted to save Su Ruoyun's life, which is why we had no choice but to use some extreme measures. If we did anything wrong, Your Majesty, please punish us as you see fit.
Feng Zihe stared at Lin Mingyue, the corner of his mouth curling into a smile that was deeply unsettling. He did not speak, and it was this silence that made everyone present feel even more terrified. Lin Mingyue knew her act of playing the victim was flawless, yet the emperor showed no reaction whatsoever. She grit her teeth, crawled forward a few steps, and said,
Your Majesty, I truly know my mistake now. I shouldn't have done such a foolish thing in a moment of desperation. Your Majesty, please do not be angry. Just beat us or scold us as you wish. Please appease your anger, Your Majesty.
Feng Zihe let out an impatient scoff.
The general's wife speaks of admonishing her. But what did Su Ruoyun need to be admonished for? Do you even know who she is? Since when does a pack of low-life scoundrels like you get to admonish her?
Even with death staring them in the face, this group of people actually dared to distort the truth. Feng Zihe's disgust was written all over his face.
To answer your majesty, she was previously the legitimate daughter of the Grand Commandant's manor, but now she is a commoner.
Situ Yuan spoke up. As long as he established Su Ruoyun's status as a commoner, then by law and reason, their heads would not roll. A mere misunderstanding with a commoner would eventually have to be dropped. The general of Genuine is indeed clever, pleading ignorance to escape punishment. Do you really think you can wipe the slate clean just like that? My voice was cold. As I stepped out from behind the screen, behind me followed the emperor's personal guards, and my 2 younger brothers. We had once relied on each other to survive in Shuzhong. Wiping the slate clean so you can safely collect pay for empty posts, accept bribes, and enjoy a meteoric rise in your career. Is that that your plan, great general? No one expected that I could walk out so openly. From behind the screen, flanked entirely by the Emperor's trusted confidants, Situ Yuan stared with wide eyes, unable to believe this was real. Upon hearing my words, he grew secretly bewildered, wondering how I could possibly know. After his rebirth, his forming of cliques for personal gain, and lining of his own pockets were all carried out with the utmost secrecy. Even Lin Mingyue only had a vague idea about them. Now that I've actually blurted them all out, it undoubtedly sent a wave of shock through his heart. Lin Mingyue, however, only saw me surrounded by handsome men. All of them have top-tier builds and looks. Jealousy welled up in her heart, and she instinctively wanted to make a sarcastic remark. But when she saw Feng Zihe's gaze, she quickly suppressed her thoughts.
Empress, these subjects of mine, it is due to my lack of strict discipline. You have been wronged. You may punish them however you wish. I only hope you won't be angry.
I sat on the phoenix throne beside the emperor, looking down at the people kneeling on the floor. Their faces were filled with utter disbelief.
How is this possible? This is absolutely impossible. How could Su Ruoyun be the empress, the mother of the nation, a position of utmost nobility and respect? There absolutely cannot be any mistake. Your Majesty, have you made a mistake? Shouldn't she just be a friend of the empress?
Situ Yuan never expected this.
You also know that the Empress's identity cannot brook the slightest error. Yet, how do you still dare to question her, General? And now you even presume to fret over our choice of Empress. Is life as an official too comfortable for you, that you wish to take a tour of the borders?
Feng Zihe's single remark sealed my identity. He kicked Situ Yuan square in the shoulder. Situ Yuan collapsed to the ground, shaking his head repeatedly. In sheer disbelief, he had speculated about my identity, and had perfect ways to deal with each scenario. But he never anticipated that I would be the current Empress. To him, this was a fatal, devastating blow.
Your Majesty, please appease your anger, but it is an absolute certainty that Su Ruoyun was expelled from her family registry. How could she possibly become the empress?
Lin Mingyue wanted to say more, yet she feared provoking my wrath, leaving her only able to stammer and hesitate. No matter, I said, calling out to stop her. Feng Zihe stepped down from his seat. I stood right in front of Lin Mingyue. My dear sister, what does it matter even if I was expelled from the family registry? Does that affect my status as the empress of this realm? I reached out and pinched her chin, forcing her to meet my gaze. Lin Mingyue trembled all over, her eyes filled with panic and fear. She never expected that I would be the empress.
Sister, how did you become the empress?
Does that matter? What matters is, while behind the screen just now, I kept hearing you say that your actions that day were meant to advise me, and that it was all for my own good. Well, I would like to ask you, what exactly did you do that was for my own good? Do tell, so I may hear it. My voice was chillingly cold, as my grip on Lin Mingyue's chin gradually tightened. The few insignificant bystanders were so terrified they begged for mercy incessantly. Their wails echoed through the rafters, and even the censor-in-chief was breaking out in a cold sweat, kowtowing and begging for clemency. Now that they knew my identity, it was only natural they should feel some fear. Though I was the legitimate daughter of a civil official, I had practiced martial arts since childhood. I caught the eye of the Grand Princess, who made a secret pact with me. If I failed to find a husband to my liking, I would go to support her son. I had gone to Shu, training diligently alongside Feng Zihe. When the late emperor was alive, he had no trusted aides at his disposal, so he basically entrusted everything to him. I followed Feng Zihe onto the battlefields, braving swords and shadows, which also earned me the reputation of a fierce female bandit. Meanwhile, Situ Yuan held the empty title of General of Genyuan, but in reality, after 5 years of living in comfort, his martial arts skills were no longer worth mentioning. Had I not wished to court trouble, perhaps on the day we met, Situ Yuan would have already become a ghost by my hand.
I am at fault too. It was my mistake. If you are truly angry, do not make things difficult for them. Direct whatever you have at me.
Situ Yuan knelt before me, his voice laced with tension. No rush, no rush. You and Lin Mingyue will be dealt with later. For now, I will handle these others first. As for the rest of these minor figures, I originally had no intention of pursuing them, but since they were so insolent that day, I naturally could not let them off. Choose a way to die for yourselves. I waved my hand, and had the eunuchs bring up 2 trays of various tools and poisons, explaining the uses of each one by one. They listened, their teeth chattering with fear, kowtowing and begging for mercy.
Please, we beg you, spare our lives.
At that critical moment, several ministers outside requested an audience.
The Grand Censor requests an audience. The Minister of Justice requests an audience. The Provincial Governor requests an audience.
These men were the husbands of the women kneeling in the hall. It was just as well that they came, saving me future trouble. The ministers fell to their knees, one after another, begging for mercy, saying they already knew the whole story, and pleading with me to show leniency. I knew this was their usual tactic to force my hand, and I couldn't be bothered to deal with it. I glanced at Feng Zihe. He understood immediately, and said that the Empress could handle them however she pleased, as long as she was happy. After all, the talent from Shuzhong was 10,000 times more capable than these parasites in court. I naturally picked up the conversation, looking down at the kneeling ministers. Naturally, I do not wish for rivers of blood to flow, and I hope you gentlemen can distinguish right from wrong, knowing who was the first to commit a fault, lest you you shield the wrong person and bring trouble upon yourselves. I took out a dagger and toyed with it at my fingertips. Seeing all the ministers present, the censor's wife found a desperate courage and gambled that I wouldn't dare to strike.
Su Ruoyun, you are a demoness, a malicious, poisonous temptress. With an empress like you, what future does our country have left? You evil woman, if you dare to strike today, are you not afraid of the condemnation of future generations? Are you not afraid of losing the hearts of the people?
I let out a cold laugh, truly admiring her courage. Before I could speak, the censor slapped his own wife across the face. Shut up! His expression was one of absolute frustration. The matter had begun with them insulting the empress. Now, with everyone trying to turn the tide, they might have at least saved their lives. But now, with this single sentence, everything was completely ruined. I couldn't be bothered to watch any longer, and threw the dagger straight from my hand. The woman was killed on the spot. Everyone was dumbfounded. Oh, such a good life, just because of a loose tongue. Gone just like that. What a pity, I said, my tone carrying a hint of amusement.
Empress, how can you be so heartless?
The censor found it impossible to accept, his own wife dying right before his eyes. He held her corpse and wept bitterly.
You actually dared to kill her. How could a noble lady of the court lose her life just for your selfish desires?
Situ Yuan also hadn't expected me to become so ruthless. He seized the opportunity to play the hero and win over the people. Why should future generations judge my rights and wrongs? I only need to be clear in my own heart. The censor's wife did not deserve to die for her initial offense, but to insult the empress at a time like this and shake the people's morale. She left herself with only one path down. As for the rest of you, you should thank yourselves for keeping your mouth shut. Now stab yourself to make a single wound with a knife, and you may leave. For those who cannot bring themselves to do it, I can have someone help you. I watched coldly as I had the knives placed in their hands.
Their eyes were filled with absolute terror, tears streaming down uncontrollably. Some knew they were in the wrong, so they steeled their hearts and did it themselves. Others still held on to a sliver of hope, trying to slip by, only to be pinned down by the guards to receive their punishment. For a moment, the room was filled with the stench of blood and the sound of wailing. You should thank Her Majesty, the Empress, for not slaughtering the innocent. Otherwise, for those who forced her hand today, taking your lives would not be an overstatement.
Lin Mingyue and Situ Yuan were too terrified to utter a word, clinging tightly to each other. Their deathly pale faces fully betrayed their panic. The remaining ministers knew that my actions were beyond reproach and could not be faulted in any way. Speechless, they could only kowtow and voice their gratitude. The Grand Censor was resentful, yet he dared not defy me, leaving only to carry his wife's corpse back home. I dismissed the rest of the people, leaving only Situ Yuan and Lin Mingyue in the room. The minor matters have been dealt with. Now, it is time for the two of you.
Spare me, please. I really know I was wrong. I shouldn't have seduced Situ Yuan. I don't love Situ Yuan at all. I only did it to best you. In truth, I am father's illegitimate daughter.
But I could only be your maid, to be raised in the manner. I was truly unwilling. I was not resigned to it. Seeing the bloody corpses and the spraying blood, Lin Mingyue was scared out of her wits. She had long forgotten about acting pitiful and weak, only knowing to kneel at my feet and beg for mercy. Qingfeng was born of the same mother as you, both of you father's illegitimate daughters. Back then, she followed me without hesitation and lost her life on the battlefield, remaining utterly loyal. Yet you actually did such a thing. Did you think I would show mercy? Stop dreaming. Men, throw Lin Mingyue into the dungeon. Subject her to all 49 forms of torture. Then crush her bones and scatter her ashes. I did not hesitate at all, wishing she could be tortured immediately. During the 3 days I was recovering from my injuries, I investigated the matters at home and learned that after I left, she bribed the servants to put slow poison in mother's food, causing my mother to waste away day by day. Until now, she was hanging on by a mere thread. She even brought her own mother into the manor, completely replacing my mother's and my positions. It wasn't that I couldn't tolerate them, but I absolutely could not tolerate someone with such a malicious heart. Lin Mingyue was dragged away, crying and screaming. Situ Yuan did not dare to beg for mercy even once. He really didn't expect that I would actually kill without hesitation. Knowing that his own outcome would definitely not be good, he decided to risk it all. He took up a blade to assassinate me. Watching the whole time, Feng Zihe stepped in to help me. Together, the two of us completely subdued Situ Yuan. He spat blood and collapsed to the ground without even the strength to stand up.
Empress, how do you want to handle this?
Looking at the dying Situ Yuan, who no longer posed any danger, I raised an eyebrow, squatting down in front of him. For the sake of our past betrothal, I will be a bit kinder to you. Guards, carry Situ Yuan back to his estate and treat his wounds carefully. Situ Yuan never expected me to make such a decision.
He treated you like this, so how could you show him mercy? Where does that leave me?
I smiled and added, However, there is no need for General Situ's estate to have any servants. Put a dog chain on him so he can guard his own house. Remember to feed him dog food every day. Only then did Feng Zihe understand my meaning. Admiring how truly skilled I was at tormenting someone under heavy guard, Situ Yuan had no way to escape. The next day, I solemnly brought my mother into the palace to receive careful medical treatment. Her health improved significantly. Feng Zihe is mother, and my mother had always been close friends, and now they could keep each other company.